This video was brought to you by the lovely members of my Patreon. So Jeffree Star uploaded a video. After weeks of saying absolutely nothing, Jeffree Star finally uploaded a video where he addresses the accusations Tati Westbrook made against him and Shane Dawson. The video is essentially an apology video where he does apologize to James Charles several times over.
I would like to personally apologize to James Charles for the words that I've said and for my actions.
Now, you guys know, or should know by now, that I am not a drama channel. That's not what we do here. We try to have conversations related to these people that can give us things that we can do in our daily lives. I would really love to stop talking about these people, but I feel so drawn to discussing them because they really do sort of skirt along a lot of issues that I've wanted to talk about on this channel. Now, I'm only going to be focusing on a very specific aspect of the video. I'm not going to really talk about all of the other apologies. In this video, I wanted to speak specifically about performative activism. Now, to really summarize Jeffree Star, for those of you guys who have no idea who he is, Jeffree Star is somebody who started back in the MySpace days. He was a musician who did a lot of really edgy shit for attention, and he was one of the quintessential MySpace kids if you were on the website at the time, like I was. Part of him being edgy back then was being a little racist, and most notably he participated in a skit with Sherolade where he talked about throwing acid on a black woman's skin to lighten her skin tone, and there's footage of him yelling the N-word at two white women whom he claims were harassing him. Now, I'm not sure why I have to say this, but let me say this, just a PSA. Using the N-word against a white person does not somehow make it less racist, and only a racist would utilize anti-blackness to degrade a white person. In the years to come, Jeffree Star would transform himself into a makeup YouTuber with a successful cosmetic brand. But as he became more popular, as his fame grew, these incidents kept popping back up. Very few people understand what it's like being visible for over 10 years online. If we all had every single foolish and disgusting thing that we've ever said recorded online forever, we'd all probably cringe at the things that we used to say. Now, when I first discussed Jeffree Star, I did it in a very, very delicate way. I said that people change because I believe that in the past 10 years, especially from the MySpace days, that Jeffree Star probably has changed. I mean, at least I'd hope, right? But the argument that I made is that we haven't quite seen evidence that he's no longer racist. And at the time, people were pointing to his black manager and the black models in his campaigns and saying that this was evidence of him no longer being racist. But the point that I would make is that it seems like those black people are only in his life to bring him some sort of financial gain. And we needed more evidence than that to actually say that he's grown and changed from his racist past. It's one thing to use black people to sell products and to make money. It's another thing to actually support them. I guess this is also the time to say that my firm yet incredibly charitable video about Jeffree Star got yanked off of YouTube because Jeffree tried to file a copyright claim against me. Now, of course, it was reinstated after I challenged him, but I got a strike on my channel, which of course meant that I could have lost my channel. And, you know, let's just say that because I gave him that amount of leeway in that first video that I made about him and he reacted how he did, I don't really trust Jeffree Star. I just don't. Jeffree Star would later go on to upload an apology video where he addresses the racism.
Those videos were 12 years ago, and I look at them and I see them resurface, and it just makes me sick to my stomach because I don't know who that person was. I know who I am today. I know exactly the person I am today, but I do not know who that person was. The person that said those horrible, vile things, that person was depressed. That person was just angry at the world. That person felt like they were not accepted. That person was seeking attention. I was someone that loved to seek attention when I was younger. I loved the shock value. I loved fighting anger with anger, and I didn't know any better.
And he essentially did everything but just verbatim say, I was racist. I engaged in racism. He made a lot of excuses and did a lot of sort of making it seem like he was this brave person for being a boy wearing makeup back in the day. It really felt like the vast majority of that video was him making excuses for what he said and framing himself as this brave trailblazer than actually apologizing for the racism. Now, you guys know me. I don't like to see things in black or white. I tend to see things in undulating shades of gray, right? So I went into Jeffree Star's apology with an open mind. But as I was watching the apology, he started talking about Black Lives Matter and it really took me off guard. I was just really confused by how exactly he arrived at that point.
And did I get swept up into the bullshit again? Of course I did. And for that, I'm forever embarrassed of. Now, Breonna Taylor still has no justice. Black trans women are being murdered every day and the news is silent. Elijah McClain has no justice, and the countless other people who are murdered every single day while everyone just goes about their business like nothing's happening. And I think that drama and the beauty world, which I have definitely been a part of, it all has to stop.
And as he mentioned Black Lives Matter, it transitioned very smoothly into what felt like to me to be an advertisement for how inclusive his brand was.
All right, now, no matter what narrative anyone tries to spin of me, I am so fucking proud to own an inclusive makeup company. Since I opened my doors in 2014, I have created products for everyone. Any product, shade, or formula I've created has worked for any race, gender, and most importantly, I want you guys to remember that all beauty matters. And from the very first ad of my company, I have always shown people of color and anyone, no matter what size your body are or what gender you are accepted in Jeffree Star Cosmetics.
Performative activism is less about the cause at hand and all about making yourself look good. And I thought that this particular apology was a very tasteless time to start talking about how inclusive your makeup brand is. Because let's be totally honest, if we're just gonna go there, let's go there. Rihanna released her foundation in 2017, I believe. Jeffree Star released his foundation in 2019, I believe. When Rihanna debuted her shade range of 50 foundations, at the time that was really, really radical because there weren't a lot of companies thinking about people of color. There weren't a lot of companies thinking specifically about dark-skinned Black women. They just weren't thinking about it, right? And so for Fenty to come out with all of these foundations, it really was a trailblazing moment. Jeffree Star recently released his foundations. He recently started releasing his complexion products. In a post-Rihanna Fenty world, if you debut foundations that don't have a large range, you look bad. Now, I want to make it very clear that as a Black girl who wears makeup, I'm very thankful that people are starting to have these wide ranges for their foundation lines, right? I think that's great. But I want to make it very, 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 very clear that at the end of the day, these are corporations. And the corporation at the end of the day, including Fenty, they care mostly about your money. They're trying to make money. You know, Jeffree Star Cosmetics is not a charity. He doesn't give makeup away for free, right? So having a wide range of foundations really just means more customers for him, right? I think that if you're going to be somebody like Jeffree Star who has a history of racism, you've got to do more than just sell makeup to Black people. You've got to do a bit more than that.
And most importantly, I want you guys to remember that all beauty matters.
He even says at one point, all beauty matters. And you know, saying that is a disconnect. You say Black Lives Matter, and then you also say all beauty matters. And if you guys don't really understand why that would seem odd, it is a generally accepted thing within the conversation around Black Lives Matter that it's inappropriate to decentralize the phrasing Black Lives Matter from Black people. So saying something like all beauty matters is literally missing the point and doing the exact thing that plenty of people who have advocated for Black Lives Matter have asked people not to do. Stop trying to derail or detract from the movement to center it on something other than state-sanctioned violence against Black folks. And of course, the icing on the cake is you go to the descriptions and there are no links to resources. There is absolutely nothing that you could do as a viewer of Jeffree Star's video to go and support Black Lives Matter like he claimed he was interested in doing. And mind you, Jeffree Star's apology video at one point was #1 on trending. So if you want to talk about using your platform to reach people for good, you know, that probably would have been a good time to do it. Now, I've been trying to figure out a way to talk about this, and I haven't really been able to articulate my thoughts about this until now. But one of the frustrations I've had in the past couple of months is just seeing so many people talk about Black Lives Matter because it's trendy. The impression I get is that a lot of people make Black Lives Matter posts on Instagram and Facebook, et cetera, because it makes them look good. It makes them look like not a racist. And it's been kind of bizarre for me to watch this because there are people who I know in my daily life, in my real life, right, who I know have been socially distancing themselves from Black people long before the virus came along, who struggle to even have a basic friendship with a Black person. And it's been bizarre to see them be all rah-rah on social media about Black Lives Matter because I know that in their daily life, they practice anti-Blackness. So I think that a lot of people are just sort of saying this now because it's trendy without really genuinely supporting what the movement is about. Him randomly mentioning Black Lives Matter in his apology video, for me, was a very clear example of performative activism. Now, I know what some of you guys are gonna say. You people will never be happy. He mentioned BLM. Why can't you just be happy and celebrate the fact that he talked about it, right? And I understand your frustration, but I think we should start by saying him talking about that was really for the members of his audience who are looking for a defense to be used against people who claim that he's racist. That's what it was for. He mentioned Black Lives Matter and Breonna Taylor and Black trans women in that video because it makes him look virtuous, or at least that's how he thinks it comes off. For me, it felt very trite, and I think for a lot of people it felt very trite, but I know that he probably mentioned that in that video because he thinks it makes himself look virtuous. And performative activism is all about that. It's about being invested in how it makes you look and not actually being invested in the cause. I would much rather see these people acknowledge their own complicity with racism, acknowledge that at some point in their lives, they bought into the lie that is racism. I would appreciate the self-reflection, the step away and actually thinking about how white supremacy directly impacts you and those around you so much more than just a Black Lives Matter posting. I'm going to assume that for Jeffree Star, he probably thinks that just clearly saying that he's been racist would make him look bad. But I honestly think that it would endear him to those of us who have looked at him and genuinely had an open mind towards the potential that he's trying to be a better person, that he's trying to be a different person, right? I think that that would be a step in the right direction. But it's just so much easier for him to say Black Lives Matter and to just list off a bunch of names. Now, I don't know if he actually did this or not, but one thing I will give him credit for is that he talks about stepping away and really thinking about why what he did was wrong, why what he said was wrong. And to be totally honest with you guys, one of the thoughts that I've been having over the past couple of years is that I feel like we're all so pressured to say what we feel, to say what we believe, that there's not a focus on introspection. There's not a focus on just keeping your thoughts to yourself and not feeling like you always have to say something. Sometimes people really do need to sit and process stuff instead of just saying something out of pressure, feeling like they have to have a statement, feeling like they have to be on top of it and say something now because that's what people are telling them they need to do. I actually would really respect people a lot more for walking away from the conversation and just sitting with themselves for a really long time to really unpack why they felt that way, why they did those things. I'd appreciate that so much more than a haphazard apology. And you really can't do self-reflection like that in the space of a couple of days, weeks, or even months. It's honestly an ongoing, consistent thing. So I know that there are people watching this video who are probably at a loss, you know? It seems like in a very superficial way that Jeffree Star is doing all the things. He's making the posts, he's saying Black Lives Matter, he's mentioning Breonna Taylor. How can you support Black folks and do it in a non-performative way? And my answer to that is simple. Remember that Black people are Black 24/7, 365. We never stop being Black, so your conversations about Blackness and for Black people, advocating for Black people, should be year round. You shouldn't just talk about this when someone gets killed. You know, I don't know how people are gonna hear this, but I'm very thankful in the past couple of months that I have gotten a lot of subscribers because certain people have called me out. I am so thankful for that, and I am so thankful for my new subscribers. You guys are amazing. You add so much color to this platform, and I think that that is beautiful that you're here, right? But what I've noticed is that people tend to call me out and shout me out almost only in the context of Black people dying and people saying, where are all the Black bloggers? Where are all the Black bloggers, right? And as much as I appreciate the support, I would appreciate if the support were year round. I would appreciate it if the support didn't seem like it relied on a Black person dying and it going viral. And to be honest with you guys, a lot of times when I get people coming to my channel because somebody made some diversity post somewhere, it's not sustained support. It's not sustained support. You know, a lot of people are saying, oh my God, I have such a hard time finding Black YouTubers. Where can I find Black YouTubers, right? And here's my thing. I log on to YouTube every day and I see Black YouTubers. I've got Black people in my feed, but that's because I'm actually engaging with their content. I'm actually commenting on things. I'm actually liking things. I'm actually engaging with their content. So the algorithm for me changes to make sure that there are Black people in there. For a lot of people, it really begins and ends at them clicking on me on some diversity list somewhere and not really engaging with my content, which really doesn't help me. I don't want your pity subscription. I don't want you to throw me a bone because I'm Black. I want you to be here because you actually like and support what I'm doing here. I want you to engage with my content because you got something out of it. I want you to share my content because you got something out of it. I want you to actually be aware of what I'm doing and not just blindly subscribe and support me because I'm Black and that will somehow absolve you of your white guilt. That's not what we're asking for. I think as you become more aware of these conversations, they become more integrated into your daily life, and it will become hard for you not to be invested year-round in these conversations. You should be invested in fighting against racism every single day, and it shouldn't take guilt or pressure for you to say something. It should just be part of who you are. I mentioned in my previous video that being anti-racist should just be something that people know about you, right? It shouldn't be something that is such a surprise to them because you're so engaged in the conversation that they just know who you are. They know what you stand for. There are some people on this website whose content is not political, right? But you can tell where they stand. You know what they support and you know what their moral compass is. For example, you guys should know that I love true crime videos, right? And one of the people that I like to watch is Bailey Sarian. Bailey Sarian recently did a video about the Tulsa race riots, and it was a really great video that really went over all of the racism. She took something that is one of the many examples of a thing like this that happened that reinforced systemic racism, and she presented it to her audience in a way that didn't really deviate from what she usually talks about, right? So there were a lot of people who through that video probably learned something brand new about Black folks, about racism that they didn't know before. And for me, that's a great example of effectively using your platform. Another YouTuber who is great at this is another true crime YouTuber, Kendall Rae. She regularly uses her platform to raise money for Black Lives Matter. She truly goes the extra mile to advocate for Black folks, and I really, really appreciate it. She didn't need to be pressured. She didn't need somebody to yell at her. She didn't need people saying, why aren't you talking about this? She just does it. And that for me is what real allyship looks like. Being an anti-racist really shouldn't be something that you brag about. It should just be something that people know about you. Whenever I make a video about racism, there's always someone who says, well, Kat, you know, not everybody cares about racism as much as you do. And yeah, I get that. You're right. Not everybody does care about racism. But my point is, if Jeffree Star wants to sit in his mansion surrounded by his wealth that he's hoarding And he wants me to believe that he's not racist, that he is this anti-racist that would never say the things that he said in the past. I'm really gonna need for him to do a bit more than sell makeup to Black people and post BLM on Twitter. In conclusion, what I'm really trying to say is that Black people should exist in your feed and in your life for more reasons than to make you feel less guilty. They should exist in your feed because we are your neighbors in this world. Because racism divides us and breeds inequality. Because you don't want racism to be a sickness that continues to be passed down generation upon generation upon generation. You want that oppression to end and you don't want it to continue. When you're passionate about something, you won't have to be pressured into standing up for it. I probably shouldn't say this, but I really do hope that Jeffree Star does take the time to sit down and think about all of the various ways that he's hurt other people. I really do hope that he does that because, you know, without getting into all of it, there are so many inconsistencies with how he's talked about this and how he's presented himself and basically everything that he says and does. There's so many inconsistencies, and that has to be a very tortured existence. He can't be happy like that. And so as much as I don't like the man, as much as he's, you know, tried to drag my channel down, I really do hope he gets himself together, and I really do hope that he takes the time to really think about his impact on other people. Not in a way where he can come on YouTube and say that that's what he's been doing, but like in a real deep way, in a real genuine way, where he can really start to see that a lot of what he's done has been hurtful to other people in a real genuine way. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Talk to you guys later. Bye.